TIFU by rebooting in combat mode when I woke up from anesthesia.
Didn't happen today, more like 14 years ago. Feels like a fever dream now. Fever nightmare? Anyways. Another recently posted story here reminded me of the first time I ever lost my ever-loving mind. I got my wisdom teeth out when I was 18. It took an inordinate amount of anesthesia to get me under. I've been called, affectionately, mind you, a hummingbird on crack in terms of both energy levels and metabolism, so I think it probably has something to do with that. At least that's what I've always chalked it up to. So how much anesthesia can a small teen girl possibly need? They had my mom sign some more forms, sent the CRNA home, called an actual anesthesiologist in, and I paid more money. Woo. When I woke up, it was clear to me that I had been the victim of bodily theft. They had stolen my teeth. At least, that's the closest I can guess as to what I might have been thinking. Apparently I quickly and quietly pulled all of the gauze and packing out of my mouth, and then tried to sneak out but was caught. Let me tell you, I put up one hell of a fight. Remember that small dinosaur from Jurassic Park that flares his frills and sprays all that black gunk? At one point I channeled that lil guy's spirit and spit blood into the face of an assistant. Like in her eyes, and I think some of it got in her mouth. Eventually my mother, Ukrina, ironically, got me into her car where I proceeded to shriek and wail that I was being kidnapped and tried to jump out of the car the whole way home. Well, sort of. She drove to an Olive Garden because I refused to go back to any house with her, so she just drove circles around the parking lot until I passed out and then went inside for a glass of wine. Well deserved, Ma. I don't do well with anesthesia I guess. But back to that poor assistant. I felt so bad. I've never done anything like that in my life. I had to submit a blood test and then I took her flowers and a gift card. She had a black eye. Apparently I also headbutted her. I just never came back and figured that was the best gift I could give her. TLDR, I woke up in combat mode and tried to take out a dental assistant using biological warfare. Edit, I do not have red hair. For those that do have red hair, cue the late 90s war on drugs commercial scary voice. This could happen to you.
But seriously, redheads are known to have more adverse reactions to anesthesia than other people. People with red hair should be aware of this when going into surgery.
I was starting to come up out of the anesthesia when they were transferring me from the table. The anesthesiologist said, "Keep your hands on your stomach," followed by your own stomach. Apparently I had smacked him in the nuts while I was flailing around.
I apparently am extremely aware of my surroundings. When I had surgery, the last thing I saw on the bulletin board was the instructions on how to handle a dead body. They put it at the bottom of the board, directly at eye level of the gurney. I remember waking up and saying to the doctor, "I have something extremely important to tell you." I explained how it was awful to see that and that he needed to go for a ride on a gurney to see things at patient eye level. Well, at my post-op follow-up appointment, he said that he brought up my concerns with all of the doctors at the hospital. They did find the paper I referred to and moved it. They also took turns going on the gurney to see what patients see. He said there were other changes made after they went around and the doctor told me the hospital thanked me for the suggestion. I got a $5 gift card to the hospital coffee shop for my comments, which I thought was hilarious. She drove to an Olive Garden because I refused to go back to any house with her. So she just drove circles around the parking lot until I passed out and then went inside for a glass of wine. Well deserved. Ma, I love your mom. Every time I've been put under general anesthesia, when I wake up I have been screaming bloody murder. No one has ever told me what I have said or done. But every time, with one exception, my family has forced me to write apology notes to doctors and nurses. The one time I didn't have to write it was because they put me under without permission after I denied it and it wasn't necessary. I don't know what happens. But apparently I don't react well. At all. This made my day reading. When I had my appendix out, and mind you it was my first ever surgery, I woke up from the anesthesia and kid you not the first words out of my mouth to the nurse was, "Can you pull the plug?" Nurse here who works in an electrophysiology lab that deals with anesthesia on all cases. The patients that wake up the most combative are young females. One time, we were doing an electrophysiology study on a 21-year-old female who was 80 pounds. It took 5 of us to hold this girl down because she was on a very tiny table. And we didn't want her to throw herself off of it. Lol, the young girls always wake up somewhat combative. It's fascinating. Last time I came around after surgery, I would only say my name, rank and soldier number. Until my brain finished rebooting. I left the army like 15 years before that point. No clue why it latched onto that. I guess my brain went into interrogation mode. The last time I was put under, they gave me sedative as I was coming round and I talked to someone who wasn't there quite happily. For an hour after. The time before, I broke someone's nose as nobody knew I reacted that way to anesthetic. At least you attempted to leave quietly. And there are many people who react badly on the exit, I am sure. I have had anesthesia a few times with no issues afterward, but my little lizard brain is so scared of the idea of anesthesia that in the pre-op I become a terrified weeping mess who can process no logic about how it is going to be fine. The last time, I had a nurse basically big spooning me on the gurney to help me calm down before going under. Above and beyond, truly. Then I wake up perfectly happy and think, why was I scared of that? Only to have extreme panic next time. I am so sorry to everyone who has to calm me down. When I was decanting from a coma, I had some seriously terrifying delusions. I said many awful things that don't reflect me as a person, and I ended up needing to be restrained to the bed. I tried to seek out the staff I'd verbally assaulted but never managed to. Despite everything. Despite them knowing it wasn't me and I wasn't myself, it still weighs on me because none of what I said or did was who I am, and it pains me to think someone might believe otherwise. Coming out of anesthesia is always a ride. When I woke up from open heart surgery, chest full of drain tubes and wires, my first request was a bacon double cheeseburger and a chocolate shake. The nurses on the heart unit were like, "No, you can't eat yet." Cue me refusing to respond to anything the nurses asked that wasn't about getting me my burger and shake. I've never done anything too crazy waking up from anesthesia or other sedatives. But I did declare, I'm not depressed anymore. When they asked how I was after waking me up from getting my wisdom teeth out. It cracks me up for some reason. Nice. When I had all 4 of my wisdom teeth extracted, I apparently came to in the chair when they were done, stood up and said, "I have an idea." Then ran into the waiting room moaning in pain with blood coming out of my mouth in front of 2 kids waiting for their appointment. I have zero memory of this. It's wild to me that people wake up like this. I've woken up during surgery and asked to see what they were doing. But I was completely in my right mind. After I woke up again, I just vomited relentlessly no matter what they gave me until a nurse gave me lavender oil on gauze to sniff. Lol. But I'm immediately my normal self after I wake up. It's weird. Also, I'm redhead-edish. And my kids have red blonde. So it's probably that. It either takes a ton of drugs to do what they need or half a dose. It's crazy. When I went under for my wisdom teeth, apparently I came to absolutely hysterical. Like I wouldn't stop cackling for 15 plus minutes. My mom's an RN and said it was funniest thing she'd seen. The doctor and all the nurses kept coming by the room we were in to see me see again. I was giggling non-stop. They gave me my teeth in a little gold treasure chest and I allegedly sang out, "Mom, I got the booty." When it was time for us to go, the doc stood me up. I said, "Oh, my legs are so soft and squishy," and starting to sink to the ground. They kept me for another laughter-filled 15 minutes until I could walk to the car. I remember the drive home and passing a guy walking on the sidewalk wearing khakis and I thought he wasn't wearing pants. When I was 16/17, I had a surgery to remove a massive mole on my back, the size of a dime and as tall as a skittle. When I came out of anesthesia, I stood up and asked them if I could keep the mole. Excess Mimi. They were sending for testing because I didn't want them to clone me. They did not allow this. 2 steps later, and I fainted. When I came to, they complimented me on my form. Apparently, I fainted gracefully and avoided any injury. I came up from anesthesia sobbing because I was so sure that the other unconscious patients had been watching me sleep and I wanted someone to make them stop it. After I eventually got over that, I apparently started beefing with nurses I was hangry from fasting for the surgery. I don't remember being in any particular mood at that point, but my mom tells me I was being mean for no reason. All of that in contrast to before the surgery when they'd had to give me something for the anxiety. And once that kicked in, I thought I was a comedian. Nurse came around to ask my name and birth date for the umpteenth time, but instead of being peevish about it, I started waving my wrist around and yelled, "I've got a cheat sheet right here." Quote, the most recent time that I woke up out of anesthesia, the poor nurse assigned to me to make sure I was alright got a full history lesson on the tools and tactics of medieval siege warfare. I have no idea why it was so imperative that she know the proper way to defend castle walls. But her peasants will thank me when they still have grain next winter.
Main system, activating combat mode.
I didn't do or say anything weird when I came back up after getting my wisdom teeth out. I did, however, wake up to one of my arms taped down because, apparently, I wouldn't stop scratching my nose. Tears of joy.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.